So I'd love to start with your story, your origin story, and how did you land up at Codeium?
Yeah, it's a long story. I'm basically like BJ. I worked at Salesforce together. I was always tinkering with whatever the latest technology is. One of the things that actually came up during Salesforce and then a little bit after is GPT-2, right? So GPT-2, you could plug in any input and get any output that's more correlated than, for example, Salesforce at the time, you had to train a very specific model to do like sentiment analysis or ticket classification. So I knew that was like the direction of where things are headed. But later, I think like diffusion models came out for images. Llama came out, Llama 1. I think I had to find a BitTorrent link on their GitHub because it was leaked to try out Llama. I even bought like two 4090s at home just to play with it. But anyway, like I kind of just went all in. I knew I had to get into AI, and I found this like very smart team that was building a competitor to Copilot, and they called it Codeium, and just joined that team before they were making revenue off of it. And we had to figure out how to sell our first customers and then grow the business to the cloud business and eventually, of course, to WindSurf, which was the first AI agentic IDE out of the market.
So at what stage was Codeium at when you joined them? And you were the first salesperson there.
I mean, it was a very ambiguous title. It was like the guy that you just throw everything else to that's not engineering work. So it was like marketing, sales, finance, deployed engineering, the partnerships, recruiting. So eventually I was just like building a team to get rid of my job. And my only job was to get rid of my job during my whole tenure at WindSurf.
And how many years did you do that?
It's almost 3. I think it's like 2.5 to 3 years now.
2.5 to 3 years. You know, I find it really fascinating. I'm looking at him and thinking he's a company builder. You know, many of us are founders or wannabe founders coming up with the next idea. And then there's this other persona, which is really necessary in your team to actually get your company to become a company. A product doesn't become a company without customers and traction and employees and supporting those employees and those transitions the companies go through, right? And that's what I'm just fascinated by your personality, that you managed to thrive with this 2-person company, literally, when you started with them. And then
it was probably like 10, I think.
10 people?
Yeah, but I think that probably a key point for the founders in here is we were looking at what the market was not doing, but was easy to win. Because when you want to win your first customer, you got to go to something. You have to build something that's pretty much uncontested. So what we did was we built the first like on-prem version of Copilot, and then we could just sell that to like banks, the defense companies, healthcare companies. So like we built a product that was just nobody was selling in. And that's how we got our first couple $1 million within the first, I think, six months.
Incredible. Yeah. $2 million for, was it an IDE that won the $2 million deals and in Fed?
Not yet. We were building extensions for like VS Code. And then our goal was to get to as much surface area as possible because we talked to companies that had Eclipse users and Visual Studio users. And we were like, wait, if we show this side by side with Copilot, they're going to choose us. Like they're not going to choose a solution that only works with a subset of users. And we still kind of do this with Cursor, where we have like a JetBrains plugin, and they'll choose us over Cursor in those cases as well. But that's just one of the many reasons you need to win a deal, right?
Right, where you just keep your developers where they are. But then I think that game, Cursor and Claude are taking over now, because I landed up downloading the plugins and playing with them, and you can do it in your own Visual Studio setup at this time. So you have pretty serious competition at this stage, right, from these other
vendors?
Yes,
that is for sure. I think, again, when you have to make a decision at some point when you're a founder as well, which is do you compete where the biggest market is and go head to head, or do you go into other verticals? Like, for example, federal is a big vertical we're tackling right now, which is probably almost similar market share or market cap, I'd say, of TAM as a lot of these other major tech companies. And nobody's competing there either, right? So that's just one example of some of our initiatives that we're doing right now to compete in the world right now.
And then that amazing quality where you ran pretty much every function and then worked yourself out of the job to go do the next thing. So how did that work?
Basically, you hire someone that's much smarter than you, and you kind of leave behind, hopefully not like wreckage, but you leave behind something that's still operating, but you can keep the person accountable for the work they do.
Incredible. I think you have to be super humble and incredibly smart to do that.
I think I was just messing up a lot, and I'm like, I better hire someone else before it gets worse.
And did you ever land up writing code and building the product?
I did do code changes, but it was mainly the easy stuff. So it was like website updates and some like configuration on the back end. And I think the funny thing about like now with these AI like agentic platforms is like you can do one sitting and you can write tens of thousands of lines of code in one sitting now. So I think like the code review process is something that's very interesting with vibe coding tools now. I think a lot of people are probably thinking about vibe coding their next startup, but there's a lot of like gaps there, of course.
Yeah, and then Cognition has a completely different strategy with Devin, where you just like delegate that PRD to a agent that's just going to build it out for you. Is that right?
That's right. So Cognition, if you guys don't know, it actually spins up a cloud environment. It actually can execute the code. It can test and validate the code as well. So you're thinking about like longer time horizon things and things that are more repetitive and well-defined for the outcome. So a lot of our customers are using it for like legacy code, code modernization, and a lot of the greenfield stuff, the net new products, they use WindSurf, right? So it's really nice to have both platforms and cover, again, a common theme I keep mentioning is like good surface area, right? You want to have a platform that can cover a lot of use cases, but also provide the most value to the organization, right?
Yeah, but I kind of jumped ahead to Cognition because we're not there in the story yet. But tell us what happened in those critical 72 hours where WindSurf suddenly, well, what were you doing before that? What was your title? VP of Sales or something?
It was like head of business, which again, very ambiguous, but like it's been in the news already. So I kind of will try to summarize it.
Yeah.
Basically, OpenAI was in the news to try to acquire WindSurf, and then Anthropic
For 3 billion or something.
3 billion.
Crazy,
That's
yeah.
right. And
3 billion.
Yep.
That's 9 zeros?
Something like that, I think. Yeah. But the crazy thing is Anthropic shut off first-party access very shortly after the news came out, and basically we were like in a lot of war rooms of how to save the company because that was like the moment where kind of.
Oh, because OpenAI was going to acquire you. Anthropic shut down their first-party data.
That's right. We
So
were
you
very
couldn't-
public about it, which was probably a bad idea in retrospect because people were like, oh, I should buy Cursor instead. So this is like where a lot of diversions happened between our products. We were kind of head-to-head up until that point. And then, of course, in the news, again, I'm trying to be conscious of what I can say, is Microsoft got involved. So Satya and Sam were like arguing about WindSurf, which is kind of weird to be a part of. But
How many of you know who Satya and Sam were? You're like, who are you talking about? Some Indian dude?
just some random dudes, they're just arguing about us. And then, of course, like the last second, Google steps in and does one of those acqui-hire situations.
Sundar.
Actually,
so it was
Sundar,
Sagar.
again, I can't talk too much about it, but he was not really as involved as anyway.
Saga and Larry?
So basically, it's a crazy story. You have like probably the top 4 most relevant companies in tech right now, just like all fighting for WindSurf. And yeah.
So tell us a bit of what did the company do to get there, where they were so coveted? Was it just pure customer traction, or was there like more schmoozing in political games, or what happened to get you there?
There was a lot of initiatives that we were doing at the time. One of them was obviously model training. So we did hire, I believe, like dozens and dozens of very, very high quality AI engineers to help post-train, help do reinforcement learning, help build models that we could serve ourselves. And once you can serve a model, by the way, there's a lot more things you could control. You can control the cost to serve. You can control the context windows. You can control the speed. A lot of things you can do once you have your own models. And that was just another bet, another initiative, right? The other thing was we built a very big sales team. So we had very good distribution to a lot of the different verticals out there and a good partner team as well. So we had a very good channel distribution as well, which none of the other AI companies I think have been as good at either. And then, yeah, I think the combination of those things made it look very attractive as an acquisition target.
It's very well-rounded product and company offering for a very specific ICP, I guess. And were you looking to get acquired at the time?
Again, can't talk too much about it. I think I was told that we were getting acquired, not the other way around.
And so what was your reaction when they said that?
Well, you just take it and you think about what you have to do as a result. I think a lot of it was information asymmetry. Basically, you can't tell everybody that it's happening, but there are projects that you should probably slow down a little bit if it did happen. And then the irony is because it didn't happen, like we were missing some of these features we wanted to build, such as a remote agent, a cloud agent, right? And that kind of fed into the decision of who should be our partner, who should we merge with, and Cognition had the best in class for that product.
It's incredible. I think most employees would have just said, oh my God, what about my job next? Instead, you were like, oh, okay, there's an information asymmetry and what's the next decision we need to make and who are the best partners. And so that landed you in that position, I guess, to make the next step, which was as the CEO of WindSurf. So how did that happen? Did they just tell you over the weekend saying, all right, you're the boss?
I think that I was told like 4 days before the news broke out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and a lot of it was that 4 days I didn't sleep much either, even until the Monday of the announcement. But I had to just like kind of assemble who's going to be there. That's the new leadership team. That's I can't, well, again, a lot I can't say.
Right.
But like think about like corporate structures. This is like all brand new. Nobody knows. Nobody's seen this before, right? Even in the kind of merger stuff, it was like, wait, what do we do here that we've never seen this happen before?
Right. Yeah, so many developer tools come and pitch to me on a daily basis, and I just say no to all of them because it's so hard to know which one's going to make the cut. So, how did you make the choice? It was just 3 years back, which wasn't a whole long time ago. How did you make the choice, and how are you continuing to drive the roadmap and decision making on how do you differentiate yourself?
When you have something that's very hard to do, you got to hire very smart people. And I think Cognition, I don't know if you guys know about them. There's like, I think 10 or a dozen IOI gold medalists. This is like apparently these programmers go and compete against each other every year. And the whole team is like, these are the winners of that competition. So it's a very, very good team of programmers, but they're also very smart. And if there's anybody that will be able to break the frontier of how to make a good coding assistant, how do you get the best results, it is this group, right? And that is, again, starting from the people aspect, one aspect where we can, as a starting point, compete against the rest of the world here. But the second one is that enterprise mindset. It is like thinking about what do customers actually want to pay for, right? If you want to earn revenue, why are they paying you that much revenue, right? And a lot of the strategies from a lot of AI companies is, well, we can serve a lot of tokens for cheaper. And a lot of companies, when they raise the price of the tokens, then a lot of the companies just drop off, right? And you see that with Cursor, you see that with Claude Code actually. People, the moment that the prices come up, there's always another alternative, another subsidized product from VCs that people can just hop over to, right? And you are seeing this trend where people are making like tens of millions of ARR within like a month or 2 months, but then they just mysteriously stop reporting that number after the initial months, right? And the reason why is because there's no retention there. A lot of people can just drop off and go to the next product. And of course, the way they acquired the customers was probably because of this like subsidy, right?
So, do you go for an enterprise sales model, or is it just developers trying it out and churning, or how does it work?
Oh, well, for us, we're definitely going like almost all in on enterprise. We do want to address the individual developer, but a lot of the features that we're choosing to build are for large companies, for understanding code bases, and for like the security aspect as well. A lot of people underestimate how much work it takes to get approved for like SOC 2 or FedRAMP or these other certifications. And whenever there's a barrier of entry, I was telling somebody in the room, if there's a high barrier of entry, then that means you'll probably have less competition getting in there.
Awesome. And then, so I guess that's telling you that the people are what makes the difference when it comes to a developer tool. And so when you had the reverse acquihire from Google, didn't take away these 10 engineers that you value highly?
Again, a lot of this is not reported, but Google chose the research team. So a lot of the foundational model capabilities, a lot of the core engineering team was taken away, which left us in a kind of a very scary situation of like, how are we going to innovate? How are we going to stay ahead in the competition? How are we going to innovate? What are our customers going to think, right? And then in the other aspect of it, why even work here is another thing that came up in my head for the engineers, for the salespeople. Yeah. A lot of people were probably, I know for a fact they were all getting hit by dozens of recruiters each, right? So these are all the things going on in my head immediately after kind of just reporting the news to the entire company.
And so what did you do to keep them?
I spent roughly 12 hours just talking to everybody one-on-one while spending the other half of the time trying to find either a VC investment or potential acquirer, just any interest in the first like 24 hours alone, or 12 hours, I should say. And then the second thing was the enterprise engineers, if they left, right, there's no more product. Like if something goes down, something breaks, you're not going to be able to fix it, right? So that was my first priority immedially after.
And you have production customers using your tool on a daily basis.
Yeah, we had roughly, I think, 82 million in AR, contracted enterprise value, ARR actually. Some of the biggest companies in like JPMC, Dell, like these guys were emailing right away, like, hey, what's going on over there, right? So we needed an answer immediately as to what's going on, right? So I think the number one thing also in my head was there's a time decay factor here. The longer this would go on, the worse it was going to get for the company.
So it wouldn't have been possible for you to sustain yourself on customer revenues and just continue running the company? You had to go for VC money again?
You could argue that we didn't have to because there was enough capital to fund the liabilities, right? But that was only less than a year, I think, of runway. And then, of course, if the revenue dries up also, that's going to be an issue, right? So there was a lot of things. Again, the longer you go, the riskier it would get over time.
And then, so Cognition seems like a natural partner now when we look back at it retrospectively. But at that time, who else was on the table, and how did you go about analyzing what would be the right fit?
I can't talk specifics. There was other AI companies. There was other foundational model companies. And the question I had was, of course, like kind of is it a win-win situation? Are both companies benefiting from it, or is it a situation where they just want to buy the data or the distribution and just like kick everyone out, right? And with Cognition, it was interesting because they were looking for a go-to-market team. So they were actually they were like, we got to hire 10x salespeople in the next few months, and then this whole thing just opened up. And on the flip side, there was the product overlap, which was almost none, right? So the product overlap was like, okay, now I can have a local synchronous agent. I can go to the cloud asynchronous agent seamlessly between these two products. Basically, again, cover more surface area. And then we discovered this after, but we only had 5% customer overlap too. So a lot of our effort now is spent on cross sells. We just go to the customers we already have and be like, do you want to buy the other product? And they're like, yeah, I'll try it out.
Phenomenal for Cognition, yeah. And now where do you think you're headed next? Do you think, it seems like just developer productivity is just shooting up, skyrocketing beyond any human comprehension. Do you think it's going to be completely based on agents and you won't need IDEs at all?
Yeah, over time, the percentage of time spent in the IDE is going to go down. And the percentage of time in these cloud agents is going to go up. And the agents are getting very powerful. I don't know if anyone saw today, Claude 4.5 was released. It has a lot of like very novel capabilities that weren't in previous models. So like it writes notes down as it's creating, so it keeps track of the context as it goes for long horizon. It actually specifies the sources natively now in the model itself, and it's really good at just knowing what is going on throughout the whole time. It just knows what's going on, which is really crazy. With other models, we had to do a lot of work to get that.
So there's
capability.
GitHub Copilot, there's Claude, and then what else do you have that's competing with you today?
I would say Copilot and Claude Code and Cursor. Those are probably the main competitors right now. Yeah.
Those are all heavy hitters owned by massively funded sources, and Cognition is going to outbeat this market.
There's other ways of thinking about this, which is, again, like I said, there are places you can compete that are not as obvious, and a lot of stuff I can't reveal today. But there are ways to compete that are very unique differentiators and unique verticals, like I said earlier, which will be easier to grab.
Verticals. It's definitely very interesting. I think pharma and Fed and many of these have regulatory requirements at the code level. But I would think that any of these IDs would want to double down on that, right?
I think they're all gunning for the mainstream individual developer.
Just the mainstream individual developer.
Yeah, the TAM is so big for that, but it's way more competitive. Like they're going to take a very
How many
huge
developers are there in the world? 50 million?
That's probably 30 million.
30
but
million?
That's not including vibe coders. So everybody in here could be a developer, right? So if you really want to expand like the capabilities of what you can do with these tools, you're talking about like hundreds of millions of people that can use these tools. And the cost per developer is going up too. So people used to pay $15 a month. I think Copilot was the one that anchored everyone at that number. Now $200 is like a very normal number to pay a month for getting the max amount of tokens with these tools. And I think that number is going to keep going up because you're just getting so much value from these tools. It's probably going to go to $1,000 in the next couple months, I'd say.
Per month?
Per month, per user.
Oh my gosh. $1,000 for 30 million. That's the 3 billion in itself. No, 30 billion. Oh gosh.
It will probably be in the trillions in a year or two. Yeah.
So what do you see for yourself next?
I just want to make the company successful. I'm having fun doing these talks and talking to other leaders and finding out what they need. So for now, I'm going to be at Cognition and just help out the company.
Open to questions at this time. Anybody building any developer products? Yeah.
And it's right now we have this massive amount of intelligence that is being funded by VCs, right? And it's funded all the way up to the hardware level. Do you think that at some point in the future we're going to have like access to less capabilities because all this funding will run out and like and it won't be subsidized anymore? So it's clear what I'm asking.
Yeah, but by the way, like there's a stat out there that says every year the models are like 90% cheaper to run. The problem is everybody wants to go to the state-of-art models, right? And then the other problem is like reasoning added another multiplier amount on the number of output tokens, right? And the other one was agentic workflows because you have to keep doing, you do reasoning and then you do the workflow and then you do it multiple times, right? So the problem is like it is getting cheaper to actually run these models, but you're doing it more and more times. So these things well, I hope they eventually balance out, but there will be a point where there will be specific things that are very cheap to solve and can definitely make a lot of money. But the other point I want to make is for Devin, we actually make a lot of money on Devin because the things that it's solving is worth so much money. So our cost per developer is way, way higher than WindSurf. So there is a world where you can make money on these tools. You just have to do it right with how you run the business.
Yeah, as a CEO, you mentioned something that's, I think, concerned all of us as founders, which is you were concerned about the AI engineers leaving and leaving you in the lurch. With AI coding, managing a DevOps operation, how do you keep someone from having the keys to the kingdom and walk out the door?
I mean, DevOps is actually okay because like a lot of the operations that like IT / people that are maintaining the systems, there's a lot of code existing there that these AI systems can actually understand and help you maintain. So that's like a lot lower risk. The big risk is when you have something very cutting edge, something you're trying to push the frontier on, then there's actually no training data about this. There's no code out there that can be a reference, right? So this is where you do need those top tier developers. But if you don't have those top tier developers and they leave, then you probably need to double think about how to compete in the space.
But I'm more interested in how do you set up that cutting edge dev team so that it's not all someone can't hold you hostage?
I think this is more of a culture question then. The people you hire have to really believe in your mission, they have to believe in you as a leader, right? So you have to have a team that is like, they're not mercenaries, hopefully. Like they'll just take another bigger paycheck elsewhere, right? That's kind of the other aspect of saving the team and making sure that they stay, right?
Yeah, I see.
Just
Thanks.
some incredible leadership lessons, I think, just listening to Jeff. Don't you agree? Like he's managed to retain the employees and incentivize them, keep them motivated despite founders leaving and an acquisition, all within 72 hours with a new role. Incredible. I'm totally inspired by you, Jeff.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Jeff, one last question. And
Yeah.
after the Jeff will be around, you can catch him later as well.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing. You mentioned WindSurf is now complete 100% on enterprise focus, right? So I was just wondering, what's your top enterprise go-to-market strategy right now? How are you getting new enterprise sales?
I wouldn't say it's our 100% enterprise ready. There's definitely a big subset of hardcore developers that are, again, they kind of like only stay up, I think, in the daytime from like 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. or something. So actually, they're cooking up some stuff as well. For the enterprise motion, it is about, first, like I mentioned before, the cross-selling piece, where again, we have a lot of customers that are using the other product and we just need to simply engage them in a new pilot. The second piece is something I mentioned earlier as well, which is kind of federal and the partner angle. So the partner angle, nobody is doing right now. I think Cursor has famously said they're not going to do partners. They want to maintain the licenses and stuff. And there's a very interesting business motion there where they're the distributors of the product and they can be a force multiplier for your go-to-market as well. And basically what we're trying to do internationally is be the default choice versus Cursor, which is hard to do when Cursor and Claude Code have such a strong PLG motion, right?
So with that, a big round of applause for Jeff. Thank you so much. Really
you for having
appreciate your time.